female population, if you're destroying your mother and your sister, and your daughter, you're essentially destroying life itself. So how do we as human beings continue on if what is essential about life is being eviscerated and devastated? And so with the play, I just got a whole group of activists together, 13 years ago and said, what could we do with this play? How could we end violence against women and girls? Not manage it, not keep building more and more shelters to keep allowing it and giving it permission, but how do we end it? And we came up with this idea of V-Day, which was Ending Violence Day, Vagina Day, Valentine's Day, reclaiming Valentine's Day as a day of kindness and goodwill to women. And we started with one production in New York of the Vagina Monologues that all these amazing performers came, from Whoopi Goldberg to Susan Sarandon to Glenn Close. And that night was so catalytic. It just launched this movement that in 13 years we are now in 130 countries. Last year there were 5,000 events in I think 1,500 or 1,600 places. It's raised close to $80 million that has all gone into local communities. And what's amazing, it's self-empowerment philanthropy. I mean, people put on the play, they raise money, and everything they raise they keep, and it goes to local shelters and hotlines, and it keeps their own communities going. And on top of that, then, we began to look at places like Afghanistan was the first place where people couldn't perform the show without high risk. And we started to say, can we do campaigns to focus on those particular places where all the activists in the world would then raise money for that particular place. So we started with Afghanistan, and we've moved on, to places like Juarez. This year we'll be highlighting Haiti. The Congo has been one of our biggest campaigns. But what I'm most moved by is how many, I think V-Day is now at 900 colleges around the world, and how the activists pass it from year to year to each other, and it keeps going and growing.
Eve, that connection between New Orleans and Congo, where we're going to go next.
Well, it's very profound, I think you do things unconsciously, and you're drawn to places unconsciously, and then you realize that there's all these amazing interconnections. And when I was in New Orleans, when we were working on Vita the 10th, we were talking about where we were going to stage this big demonstration, and they said, well, you have to come to Congo Square. And I was like, Congo Square? There's a place called Congo Square in New Orleans? And in fact, Congo Square was the place where slaves on the weekends reclaimed their original heritage. It was, and the majority of slaves who arrived in New Orleans were from the Congo. So there's this amazing connection between, and then of course now we're involved in Haiti, and we see the kind of three-way V between Haiti, Congo, and New Orleans. So when we had bought all these, we bought activists to New Orleans last year, Dr. Mukwege from the Pansy Hospital, who we honored at this huge event, and Christine Schuler-Descriver, to be with Dr. Mukwege marching. Here he is, one of the great Congolese doctors and leaders, marching from Congo Square to the Superdome. I understood how the world is so profoundly interconnected, and our history is so creating a future that if we don't really investigate the history, we will continue the kind of oppression and colonialism and raping and destruction that is going on in the Congo, goes on in Haiti, and goes on in New Orleans.
We're talking to Eve Ensler when we come back from break. She's going to share with us an essay she wrote called Congo Cancer, talking about the Democratic Republic of Congo and talking about her own cancer. Eve Ensler, yes, the playwright and creator of the Vagina Monologues and V-Day. Stay with us. Belle, one of the most famous female singers of the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. We're broadcasting on over 850 stations on Pacifica and NPR and Low Power FM and college and community radio stations, on public access TV and PBS TV stations, both TV satellite networks, on Dish Network Channel 9415, Free Speech TV, 9410, Link TV, on Direct TV Channel 375, and we're video and audio podcasting at democracynow.org. Our headlines also available in Spanish for any radio station to take is over 250. Our guest for the hour is Eve Ensler, the founder of V-Day, the author of the Vagina Monologues, the playwright who has directed Swimming Upstream that will be performed in Harlem and New Orleans on September 10th and September 13th. We've talked about New Orleans. We started talking about the Congo. And we're also going to talk about Eve's own personal battle with cancer. But before we do that, Eve, or I guess as a way to do that, you